On today's show, it is part 2 of 2 with myself and Brian Schroeder talking all about the NBA draft in advance of the lottery, and it's coming up right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1964 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Rowland, coming to you on a Monday evening into Tuesday. And today's podcast is brought to you by the folks at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I also want to encourage you at the top of the show, as I always do, to make us your first listen each and every day here at Locked On Hawks. Check us out and subscribe to the podcast anywhere you happen to find your podcast. That includes Apple, Spotify, Overcast, as well as YouTube on the video side. And please tell your friends and family to subscribe to this podcast as well. If you missed it, this is actually going to be part 2 of 2 with myself and Brian Schroeder talking about the NBA draft. Part 1 is in this same podcast feed right now. So stop here, go back to part 1, listen to the show in order for the best possible listening experience. But part 1 covered some bigs and stuff like that. We'll get into some guards, et cetera, kind of a broad look on purpose about the NBA draft at this point in time. And we'll dive further and further in over the next 7 or 8 weeks until the draft actually arrives. But here we go with myself and Brian Schroeder and part 2. We can get away from the bigs for a second. I do want to ask you about a couple of perimeter guys. One is I've actually read a lot today, even online, about the discourse here. Where are you on the Egor Demin thing? Because there appears to be a giant split still on him. There has been the whole time, and he's come down a lot from where he was at times earlier in the season. It seems like. But are you an Egor Demin guy? Like, is he a touch point guy for you?
Not as the kind of guy people are talking about him as. He's absolutely first rounder for me. Basically, how I have it is I have my 19 starter guys. My 20th guy is Nick Clifford. I think he's going to stay there because he is the best role player in this draft.
I love him. I absolutely love Nick Clifford.
Demin's probably going to end up being the guy right behind him because I'm just not quite confident enough that he's a starter. But he could be. Like, there's Demin's just he has no burst.
No, at all. It's unbelievable. And he can't shoot.
Jakuchonis has an issue with his burst. I wouldn't say he's fast, but he still does beat people. Egor Demin, I don't think he beat anyone off the dribble. He played well. He played okay in the tournament. He wasn't bad.
I agree.
He's a connector. He's not an initiator. That's his problem.
You're way better at comps than I will ever be. I'm not very good at comps. Is worse Josh Giddey not the most obvious comparison in the world for Egor Demin, or is it just?
Well, there's another player who is worse Josh Giddey, and his name is Tomas Satoransky.
Well, and that's scary, I would imagine. Yeah. If you're,
I thought it was Tomas Satoransky at the 22. Sure.
You always loved him too, which I will acknowledge. But Demin, I'm not out, but there's the red flags. Like if he can't ever shoot, it's not going to work. That's kind of what I think. He's got to be able to. When you're as unathletic as he kind of is for that archetype, and you can't shoot, it's like sirens for me. And the passing's great. I love the passing.
Francisco Garcia comes to mind for me.
His passing's. I'm a sucker for a pass. I'm a sucker for a good passer. Yeah. He's a great.
Walt Williams is on my comp sheet for him. I am one of the biggest Walt Williams fans in the world. I love the Wizard. One of my favorite players in the 90s. But he was never a high leverage guy because he couldn't shoot. Even in the 90s, he couldn't shoot 16-footers.
And it's worse now. If you can't shoot.
Yeah, it's much worse now. And there's a lot of guys in that. Like Michael Carter Williams is another guy I have there. I don't know. It's just I'm not convinced, but I also acknowledge that at 6'8", he's at least 6'8". He's like a really special vision ball mover guy. He's a good rebounder. I think his defense is fine. He's probably a little better than Giddey's was.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they had the same problem though that these Bulls are going to have with signing Josh Giddey to a $400 million contract or whatever they're going to do. It's that he can be effective and he has skills, but you need such a specific team around a guy like that to actually work and compete.
Yeah. And
again, if Demin's going 13th, you're not really doing that. But I think that's the issue with him is a lottery talent to me is I don't know what if there's a team that he's getting 30 usage, are they good? It's a Karis LeVert problem. You're familiar with that one.
Well, no, and from a Hawks standpoint with them, and I have been yelling that the Hawks do need more creation, but they don't really need the creation that he does. They need more of a scoring creation. And he doesn't really do that at all. So like I don't for me at 22 as a value play, if he falls, like okay, whatever. I can't imagine a scenario where I'm looking at you in 2 months on the draft night and I'm like, yeah, take Demin at 13. I wouldn't with the Hawks. I wouldn't do that. That's just me.
So yeah, I keep bringing up Jakachonis. Jakachonis is like an aggressive finisher. He had his problems finishing, but he got fouled a lot at the rim.
And he's, by the way, for people listening, if you don't know him, he's the 6'6" guard from Illinois, who's a bit on most boards is a little bit higher than Demin. I think I agree with that for the record.
Yeah.
He might be a guy at 13. He might be gone by then, but he might be right in the Hawks.
Probably will be, but yeah, he's. I think Jakachonis is actually a slightly better passer than Demin. In that, like, he's a better on-ball pat. Like, he's a better getting downhill, skips, finding guys with like misdirection passer, and he's just more of a driver. Demin
and a much better scorer just in general. Like that's not everything, but he actually has some scoring juice in the way that Demin does not.
Yeah, that's the difference. There's a universe where Demin becomes like a Kyle Anderson, like passing four, but Kyle Anderson was a monster scorer. Is the thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Anderson's known for the nickname and everything else, but like he's
or like a Denny Avdia, maybe.
Okay,
maybe,
but I don't even see that honestly. Like maybe, but yeah, it's not.
Denny's a way better athlete. I think is the issue.
Way better, and also just plays differently. I don't know. Yeah, Demin. I'm not out on Demin. I just don't think I would do it for the Hawks and wouldn't bring him up because he's interesting for sure, polarizing.
He's very interesting. Yeah.
Where are you on Jase Richardson? And also, that's a broad question, but also for the Hawks because that's even interesting.
I said before that the Hawks would probably want a Sang or Carter Bryant. That's what they would want to do. I didn't say what I would want to do, which is draft Jase Richardson.
Just draft Jase. Well, and okay, so. So let's assume for this conversation they still have Trey on the team.
Yeah.
You have Trey, you have Dyson. How does it work with Jase Richardson? What is
Dyson's not a guard. Doesn't matter. Dyson's a Dyson. He plays wherever you want him.
Well, I agree with you on that. I'm just saying in general, because Trey
I think Jase is almost. We've been talking about this. How many times we talked about Kobe Buffkin? We talked about it when they traded for DeJounte. We have been every year you bring me on, you ask me about who's like the off-ball scoring guard they can put with Trey. It's Jase Richardson.
That is who it is.
He's one of the most efficient scoring guards in the last 15 years. His issue as a prospect is I don't know if he has like the raw like vertical like down the court burst of like a De'Aaron Fox that would make him like a guy you give the ball to all game.
Yeah,
I don't have that problem with you next to Trey Young.
Well, but the question you know what the question is going to be is can he guard enough to play with Trey Young?
Yeah, who cares?
I care. I care about his defense.
I think his defense is fine. Yeah, his defense is solid. I don't know. If he's playing all his minutes with Okongwu, if the lineup is Trey, Jase, Okongwu, Jalen, Dyson Daniels, I don't think defense is going to be a problem.
Okay, that's kind of what, and that's all you really need. Like, there is a baseline level you got to get to, because look, the sneaky issue that people still don't really probably understand about the Trey DeJounte thing, it was the defense. Like they couldn't defend together. Offensively didn't work either, but it was so bad defensively, it just didn't.
DeJounte hasn't been a good defender.
Oh well,
since like his second year in San Antonio. Yeah,
I know that, you know that, but it was they misevaluated that. But it's okay. So I like Jase Richardson a lot too. He is another guy who might be gone before 13, very possible.
He might be, yeah.
But he also might be like smack dab right in the middle of that 13-14 range. If they like him, that's a very attainable player for them in that range, who I like a lot.
The thing with Jase that confuses me about his positioning, I think I like him more than I like Reed Sheppard, and Reed Sheppard went third. I know it's a worse draft, but like Reed Sheppard's entire pitch was that he was like hyper efficient shooter, and Jase is like the same but better dribbling and better going to the basket, like better with the ball in his hands. I think Reed probably had better like defensive instincts and like more like playmaking as a defender, like he blocks some shots and stuff. But like they're pretty much equivalent prospects to me of like this is like a secondary like spot up guard who will like the Dante DiVincenzo type guard of like I don't know, not just a shooter, but not necessarily like a scorer guard, like an off ball scorer guard, like the Coutinho Mobley type, Kerry Kittle type, like that type of like.
Do you think he's that level? Okay, because I think Reed, most of this is earned. Like, got the like elite shooter tag because he shot so well in college, and I get it. How good is Jay? I know he's a good shooter. How good of a shooter do you think he's going to be, Richardson?
I think he's. I mean, maybe part of this is me overcorrecting for having Jared McCain kind of low, but I think he's that kind of shooter.
Which is a good
He was banging shot. Like he was. He got more and more attention as the year went on, and his shooting did not drop. Look at his exact numbers.
I think he shot. I mean, his 3-point shooting was a little bit worse in conference play, but I think was his overall efficiency was totally fine still. Like he had 55% effective field goal percentage in conference play in the Big Ten in an ugly league. Like 61% true shooting in the Big Ten.
41% on 7 threes per 100 possessions, 83% from the line on a 42 free throw rate.
As a 19-year-old in the Big Ten, yeah, I mean that's pretty impressive. And I don't make too much of this because I watch a lot of college basketball, just like you do. Mm-hmm. He should have played more. They kept taking him off the court. And it's like, why is he playing all the time? Like 38 minutes a game, like a lot of college guards play. He probably should have done that by the end of the season for Michigan State.
Yeah, he should have got some. He should have got the Bennett Sturts minutes numbers.
Well, and they also took off. Like Michigan State took off when he started playing more, and they played through more. Like they were better with him as the guy. It's just obvious.
It's because Izzo loves rewarding his upperclassmen.
I know, and I secretly love seeing it not happen in some respects as a Michigan guy. But anyway, I like Jase. When we throw,
they had to play Jaden Akins. They had to play Jaden Akins for some reason.
Yeah. Today's show is brought to you by CarGurus. Shopping for a car should be exciting, not exhausting. But between the confusing prices and the hidden fees, it can feel overwhelming sometimes. But that's why I love using CarGurus. They help you cut the noise in half or even more than that and show you the best deals with full confidence. They have over 4 million listings. CarGurus has more new and used cars than any other major online marketplace in the U.S. They have verified dealers. They provide real price analysis, and they give you the tools and the data that you need to make the right choice without second-guessing yourself at all. If you need a deal that you can trust, CarGurus also makes it easy to compare vehicles side by side with unbiased deal ratings. And the best feature that they have, in my opinion, might be the price drop alerts. You know exactly when the perfect car becomes available inside of your budget. Plus, the in-depth vehicle details give you a peace of mind before stepping onto the lot. And it's no wonder the SimilarWeb estimated traffic data shows that CarGurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site. Buy or sell your next car right now with CarGurus at CarGurus.com. That is CarGurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. And the way to spell that out is CarGurus, CarGurus.com. One more time, it's CarGurus.com. Today's show is brought to you by WayFair. Spring is here, and that means it's home project season for a lot of us. Whether you're refreshing a room in your house, tackling a full renovation perhaps, WayFair is the best kept secret for all things home improvement. From small updates to like stylish cabinet hardware to major upgrades like new vanities or new sinks or outdoor lighting, etc. At WayFair, they have the quality products for every single budget. I've been looking into some new furniture for my setup at home, and with WayFair, the selection is really, honestly incredible. And they have this fast and free shipping feature that makes everything really easy for you. No hauling heavy items from the store to your place. And I also love that they have top brands like GE and Moen at great prices. And you can shop in, honestly, seamless fashion at WayFair. I can find exactly what I want and what I need to fit in my space and in my style. WayFair makes home improvement easy. Get started right now at wayfair.com. That's WayFair. That's WAYFAIR. Wayfair.com. WayFair, every style, every home. Okay, I wanted to ask. One more like wingy guy we've not talked about that's like always in this range is Liam McNeely from UConn. What do you think of him?
For no particular reason, I hate his guts. I'm kidding. Yes. He made a great choice. He had a much better year at UConn than he would have had on a mediocre IU team. Liam is weirdly, I don't know if Grady Dick's a good comparison, but I have some of the issues I had with Grady Dick and Grady's overcoming it, but it's taking him a little longer than I would have liked. It's like he is, I think on paper, a terrific shooter who has a lot of weird inconsistencies with how his preparation for shots, how he sets up for shots. And he's one of those guys, I think, in high school, because he's like 6'7", 220.
Yeah. He's
spotting up like what high schooler is running him off the line. He's just rising and firing, but he has a lot of like elbow out. I don't know. Well, I think Collin was much more fundamentally sound as a spot up shooter than McNeely, and you can see it. And McNeely had a lot of like 1 for 8 3-point shooting performances.
I mean, he didn't shoot well overall. Like, his numbers are not good at the college level. It's one season, although he did shoot at the line, and there's always debate about how much that matters, but he is a good free throw shooter, which is not a bad thing for shooting. But yeah, he had this rep as a great shooter coming in, and he didn't shoot well.
He has the raw ability to be a, like, Mike Dunleavy or even like Duncan Robinson. Of course, these are all white guys because he's 6'7" with a 6'7" wingspan. But he has the ability to be like a Doug McDermott in college, like a guy who can hit 6-7 threes in a game and like pull you out of the game. The consistency is just not there. I'm kind of worried about his like physical health because he got banged up a lot.
Yeah,
and he's also positionally. Knipple is like a 3, like a straight like a 3, and like Liam's kind of defensively kind of more of a 4. I think his defense is solid, but
yeah.
He's just kind of stuck positionally, stuck. You know, Caleb Houston's actually not a bad, like, he's a better prospect, but Caleb Houston had a lot of those issues where, like, would miss shots he shouldn't miss, and is also, like, who does he defend? Like, what does he do? It may take Liam a little while longer than Con Knipple to just find a role. Not ignoring the fact that he's probably going to be on a better team because he'll be drafted later than Con, but
yeah.
I have some real. He was a top 10 guy for me coming into the season because the pedigree was there as a knockdown shooter, and it just didn't.
If you believe in the shooting, I could see him being really attractive to the Hawks because he does have the size that he has enough size and defensive physicality and all those things to like hold up there, and also give you the shooting that the Hawks desperately need. Honestly, they need another shooter. They just do, and if they can get that from a guy who can play forward minutes somewhere and hold up defensively, that's pretty attractive in the middle of the first round. But the shooting, it's crazy. That's like a question for him because it's supposed to be his biggest strength, and I don't know if it is anymore. But it's one season also. Like, you could say it's a small sample size. I actually, hilariously, I probably watched less like specific live game film on prospects this year, but I stumbled onto that Creighton game, his best game of the year, where he was incredible. At Creighton in an upset win. And I'm like, after the game, I'm like, man, why is he not a top 10 pick again? But then you realize like it didn't match everything else this season.
Yeah.
Which is why you don't want to just watch one game. I recommend not doing that. But yeah, I like him.
If you're someone who has access to everyone's games through, let's say, hands in quote air quotes legal means,
right?
I would go through. I did this with a lot of guys, especially if I'm like trying to catch up right before the draft or like on a second round guy I didn't know about. I go to their reference page or their BART page, and I find what looks like the 2 or 3 best games and the 2 or 3 worst games. Watch those.
Yep.
Then you'll get like you can have like, I think if you watch, I honestly think 3 to 5 games, you're allowed to have like strong opinions on a guy. I feel like.
No, that's fine. Yeah, just don't watch one.
Yeah, I've been doing this long enough that I think I can have like, I can conceive of what a guy is after that.
Yeah, you should. I mean, you obviously want to do more if you can, but yeah, I agree with you. And you also know we joke about it online and offline about the tournament sample being the one everybody remembers, and that could lead you astray.
You're telling me Walter Clayton's not a top 10 player in this draft?
Well, that's a guy. Yeah, Walter Clayton. I get a lot of questions about Walter Clayton even now because he had a great tournament. And look, he's draftable. He's
22 would be fine. Like,
yeah,
you're getting him. You're getting him hoping he's a Peyton Pritchard.
Yeah, and Peyton Pritchard's really good.
Yeah. And that's fine. Walter Clayton, just so if people ask about, his issue is that he's not a very good decision maker for a 6'2" guy, and it's like, well, he's a point guard then, right? No, not really. Like,
no,
classic combo guard.
Yeah,
it's really
there's room for that. There's room for that though. Like, that's a player you can have on your team who can score at a high level.
Why I wouldn't take him top 20 personally, because and
I don't think he's the best Atlanta fit because I don't think he and Trey would work very well. And if that doesn't work very well, then you're slotting him into a pretty tiny role and all those things. Who else have I not asked you about?
Why would you spend a first round pick on that? A guy who's
right. That's why I would not do that.
6 to 8 minutes a game. Yeah.
And it's not about Clayton. It's just that the archetype for me as the Hawks. We talked around Danny Wolf, but I want to just bring him up because he's a guy. I think people ask me about him because he's a Michigan guy. I'm not sure if that's why, but he is kind of Hawksy. And at least in the old evaluation of the Hawks. But I will always also say this: people think that I'm always going to love Michigan prospects. I don't always love Michigan prospects. I really don't. I kind of get it with Danny Wolf because he is a 7-footer listed who actually can like run a pick and roll, and that's like a really interesting skill set. But my thing, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Brian. I don't think he can defend very well at the NBA level, and he isn't really a shooter.
No,
people think that he's a shooter because he went to Yale and he's a white guy, and I get it. He really isn't a shooter. Like he can kind of stand out there and shoot, but it's not really what he does.
No, which is why he's not Kelly Olynyk, which is his problem. Yeah, I mean Danny Wolf's got like a turnover rate over 20. It's ridiculous. The turnovers are just,
and I guess part of that is probably because like at the NBA level, I'm not that worried about it because he just won't do the same stuff. I wouldn't think. Like he won't have the ball as much. He had the ball so often at Michigan to like create primary stuff for them. But also it was funny how bad, and some of them were really bad. I mean, you watched him. He had some terrible turnovers too. Like not just like harmless ones. Like what are you looking at turnovers?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I have real issues with him as like just a guy. I just don't think he can like actually. He's only going to be useful as a matchup hunting. Like, I guess you want to say the Naz Reid potential is there, but he's more like a Luka Garza to me. Like,
well, if he could shoot like Naz Reid, I would believe it a lot more. I believe it a lot more. I don't think he can.
No, Wolf is just not he's kind of fallen out of my first round personally. Like, I just don't.
I think he'll go there, but also he's old, which isn't like everything, but he is old. I think he's gonna be 23 in the draft. So I don't know. I think he's a late first. I don't think drafting him at 22 would be like offensive to me, but I don't think he'll be the guy that I would want, even if he was.
I don't like him as much as I like Mo Wagner. I'll say that.
Hey, look, Mo Wagner's still a quality NBA player right now.
Right now his knee exploded, but yeah.
Well, yeah, post the injury or at least pre the injury. This is brought to you by Gametime. There's nothing like a playoff atmosphere in an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment happens to feel just absolutely massive. It's electric in the arena, and with Gametime, you can be part of all of that without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. At Gametime, they make it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when the demand is super-duper high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and the last-minute deals can save up to 6% off. I love using Gametime for many different reasons. One of them is the last-minute deals that I just referenced. You can save 6% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, for concerts, for comedy, theater, and more. And they have seat views before you buy the tickets. They have no surprise fees, and they have a lowest possible price guarantee. And with all of that, you book with total and utter confidence. The lowest possible price guarantee also means never worrying about overpaying for your tickets. You can take all of the guesswork out of buy tickets right now with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that code is LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, before we run out of time, we have not talked about Labaron Philon, who I know you like quite a bit. He is another polarizing player, guard from Alabama. I've seen him as high as like top 7 people, and I've also seen him right now on the rookie scale because that's his board. He is 28th. Which means people might have him in the second round, I guess, because otherwise he wouldn't be that low.
We'll have him in the 40s, yeah.
Why is the split that big? Like, what are you seeing that people are not seeing?
He's not a shooter.
Is that's just it? He just can't.
He doesn't have the reps. He also may have to be a pretty ball dominant player, so he may have to be a backup point guard his first couple years. But I just love his quickness, his just a general stuff happening player.
I just scrolled on your capsule board and saw your comparisons, and I started laughing. Sorry, that's why I started laughing. Go ahead.
Delon Wright, baby.
That was one of them. One of the 2 funny ones on there for me. The other one is
he looks like, and I love Delon Wright.
Me too. I mean, obviously, I love Delon Wright. The other one's Fat Lever, which you have to be a certain age to know who that is. But that's a very funny good.
Fat Lever. I had Alvin Robertson for him. Let me look.
For Hawks fans who may not know this, Alvin Robertson was the previous guy before Dyson who averaged 3 steals a game in a season 35 years ago.
Steals machine.
Yes.
Yeah, Alfred Payton, Jaren Grant, Patrick Beverly, Jeff Teague, George Hill, Rajon Rondo, Sleepy Floyd, Fat Lever, Alvin Robertson, Alvin Williams.
Mixed bag there, but some really good players.
There's just guys, the high steals, high assist guards who get to the rim a lot are my guys. Those are my guys. Shooting, I always feel like can develop. I don't know. I don't think he's a good foul shooter.
I really like the team defense a lot. Like, I mean, I know it was Mark Sears was like the guy at Alabama, and like Philon wasn't, but
Philon's offense most of the year.
Philon's defense is really exciting to me for a player of that size. Like, I don't get he's what 6'3",
6'2", 6'3", yeah,
and like not thick, like a skinny 6'3", and was like flying around, making the right rotations as a young guy, as a young guard, and also just like habit creation. Like, I liked what I saw defensively from him this year.
Yeah, I like the George Hill one is the other one I was thinking of putting on there. He's not as physically developed as George Hill, but he's also, I mean, George Hill was a junior, I think, when he came out.
Yep.
Philon's pretty young. Like, he's not very old. Let me look here. I think he's about to turn 20.
Yeah, he's still 19 right now.
Yeah, he turns 20 late November, so.
Yeah, interesting play. I mean, 22, if you don't take a guard at 13, I don't know how much he's going to help you as a rookie, but that should be what you're taking him for anyway. And I think the Hawks, as we've seen now repeatedly, they probably need another backup point guard type. And maybe it's Kobe still. He's still on the roster. We'll see. But if the Hawks are trending out on Buffkin, we don't know that yet because it's new staff and all that stuff. They could certainly use a pick on a guard in this vein if they're not buying the Kobe Buffkin experience anymore.
I have a lot of faith in. I think the reason, to put it in one sentence, the reason I have him so high is that I have a lot of faith in him making decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I trust him to make good decisions all the time, and that's all. That kind of guy is always going to be high up for me, as long as they're like athletically vaguely an NBA player. And he's a good athlete, so.
Yeah, I like him. I'm a fan. I don't know how you look at that guy and have him in the 40s. That's where somebody has to have him there, obviously, again, because the consensus board is, and that's a very useful tool, by the way. If you don't know this, it's at rookiescale.com. There's this consensus big board.
Rookiescale.com.
Very helpful. Anyway, use that if you are a draft consumer. I think that's probably. Oh, the other guy I don't want to ask you about. One more guy, and then if you want to talk about anybody else that you want to, we will. And I'll probably beg you to come back to because we always need to do a refresh later on. Rasheed Fleming of St. Joe's was the guy that I passed over on my list earlier. 6'9" forward.
You want a forward guy who can shoot? You get Rasheed Fleming.
Well, that's why I'm bringing him up. That's why I want to make sure I got to it because he has the big forward size. And is a pretty proven shooter. And that combination for a Hawks team that needs both of those things is pretty appealing. He's not as young as some of these other guys are, obviously. But he's 21. Not like he's super old.
No, average senior age. Long arms, will attack closeouts and do some crazy dunks if he can get the open runway. I think physically and maybe with some of his stats, I think Tari Eason is the guy he looks like, but you're subtracting probably 40% of the maniac like deflection sorry stuff, and adding that into his actually making him a better shooter. So that's kind of more like, I mean, look, I really need to keep this thing open. Why not keep closing it? I'm like a lot of people I'm like a freak for only having 2 or 3
tabs open
at once. I'm like,
while
it gives me anxiety.
While you're looking at that, he shot 39% from 3 this year at St. Joe's. You want to be skeptical. He was a lot worse than that his first 2 years. Not a non-shooter, just like it was a pretty notable progression this year. But he also led the A10 offensive rebounding 2 years ago, and I believe defensive rebounding this year. So like he's a real rebounder. He's a really physical guy. He's an adult, like in a good way, and also can shoot. And that combination is like Hawks fans should be nodding right now because like if you could just plop in a 6'9" guy who can defend and rebound and also shoot.
So let me go through my list, my comp list, and remember the fact that he's aside with one guy on here, he's the best shooter by far. Tari Eason, Chimezi Medu, OG Anunoby, DJ Wilson, Jakar Sampson, Robert Covington, there's the better shooter. Ron Artest, Bo Outlaw, Brian Russell, Grant Long, Derek McKee, Michael Cage.
Grant Long,
baby.
We'd love to see that.
But yeah, none of those guys could shoot is the thing. Those are like the kind of long, sinewy. I don't know, maybe like the Horace Grant archetype of like 4, like a ground coverage guy who gets deflections and like plays well, but can shoot spot ups. Yeah, I think 22 would be great for Fleming. He'd be maybe 13. I'd be like, oh, okay, good, he fits. But 22 for Fleming would be pretty much a hand in glove fit.
I agree. You know, I don't want to go crazy about it, but I like him.
Which is why I would like Jase at 13, because I think Jason Fleming would give you one of those guys is going to start, and one of them is going to be an 8th man pretty quickly.
Sure.
And like, if the Hawks are seriously, if they're going to stick with Trey, at some point you have to not be in the play-in, right? Like,
and that, by the way, that point is this coming season, I think.
Yeah, at some point you got to at least get like 5th or 6th. Like you got 4th even. The East is never. There were 3 really good teams in the East this year, and like no disrespect to the Pacers, they earned their bye, but you could do that. You could beat the Pacers out.
No, I said this on a show recently, and people took it as me. I wasn't breaking out the pom poms for the Hawks. It was more just a practical thing where I was like, look, if they make a couple of moves, I wasn't saying as constructive, but if they make a couple of moves, they could be in the top 4 race next year in the East. That's very possible to me. Like
that should be your goal.
They would have won probably 43 or 44 games with Jalen Johnson not getting hurt this year, and that means you're like 5 wins away from the top 4 in the East. That's all. That's not a small thing. That's a pretty big jump you have to make. But like a couple moves here and there, and some development from young guys, and reach Jesse year better, and all those things. Like it's not crazy at all. Those rookies don't help you that way most of the time. Like I know you know that. I'm talking to people listening to the show. Like you're not drafting rookies to help you this year. But there are rookies that can help you sooner rather than later. I think Fleming is especially one that in that mold where, like, in a year, he would probably help you, if not less than that.
Nick Clifford might be the guy this year who helps a playoff team.
Oh, yeah. Nick Clifford is like
3, and he's like ready to go right now.
We talked about him already, just to say that. Fittingly, he'll be last on this episode, probably. Nick Clifford is like right after my own heart. He's old. I get it. Colorado State. But, like, if he's your 22nd pick in the draft, plug and play. He can help you probably right away.
Yep.
I think he can actually play minutes for you as a rookie, and that's not for me. Rookies stink the majority of the time, and I think and I'm saying he can help you right away. I think he can. He can shoot it. He's smart. All those things. Like if that's your, I mean, it might not be the sexiest pick of 22 overall, but I'd be totally fine with it. Like totally.
Great pick. Yeah. So like, because that's the thing with the Hawks. I would say the problem they've had is picking in this range. You're swinging for the. I mean, Kobe Buffkin was not really supposed to be that, but there's a lot of like, oh, this might be good. Mogays, and I like Mogay. I think he could be useful.
Yeah.
But there's too many like this guy could be good in 3 years picks for a team that's.
Well, and they've also. I'm not trying to defend everything, but you and I know, like, I don't know how foreseeable the AJ Griffin thing was, but him being out of the league in 2 years is like I don't know who to blame that on. It's not like. He was good as a rookie. He actually he had a good rookie season, and it's like, this is on track, and he has the one. And then he was like, I don't want to play basketball anymore. Like that is that on the Hawks? I guess maybe a little bit it is, but it's tough. And then Kobe's been hurt for 2 years. Like that's a skill too. It's a skill to stay healthy. So like you got to stay healthy at some point. But like, I'm not bothered by their record recently drafting. That's not popular to say locally, but like they've not had any picks that I was like baffled by in recent years.
It's just your development track is different. You need to be more cognizant of like what kind of player you're drafting now. Whereas like the Thunder could just do whatever they want.
Of course.
Or like the Spurs could do whatever they want because they're on the opposite ends of this spectrum. The Hawks are in the middle, so it's you gotta move the needle one way or the other.
And they do have, I think they have the license, provided they get the Kings pick again. This all assumes that if you have 2 picks, like I'm okay taking a pretty big swing on one of them if you want to. Like if you want to swing on a guy, doesn't really bother me. If you have 2 picks to do that, you got Tyler.
The thing about this draft is unless they go crazy with like unless they take Danny Wolf at 13 or like
would not do that.
Taking like Will Riley 13. He's a guy I think is really talented.
Yeah, Will Riley's a swingy guy I think in this class.
Yeah, or like the thing with this draft is there's not a lot of guys like that who were reliably drafted there. Like they could take Noah Penda, who I didn't mention, the other Noah, who isn't as twitchy as a Sang. He's a little older, he's a little smaller, he's a little thicker, But Noah Penda should be fine. He should be like a Jay Crowder style, like shooting 4 who can play some minutes.
Yeah.
There's really not a lot of guys in the top 40 who would be like huge swings unless there's just a stash guy.
Well, I thought of a saying that way for a while, and then recently he's been rising on everybody's boards, and it's like I think he's going to be just either gone or he was the kind of guy that's like would fit that archetype of like a bigger swing, but he just might not be available to take.
Maybe Dominic Starr if he stays. I don't know if he will.
As we're talking now, we don't know the answer to that question. But yeah, even looking down the board, like I don't think there's any like huge swing. There's a lot of old guys in that like 30 to 40 range. Your Kalkbrenners, Cam Jones, maybe Alex Caravan if he comes out. Yaxel Lindeborg if he comes out.
Who I think will be out. I'll say that. It's a sport. Some intel.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunate, but there's some old guys.
No, I hear the opposite. I think he's going to Michigan.
Oh, good. That's even better.
We'll see. It sounds like he will.
I would support that. All right. Well, Brian, we've covered a lot of ground. I will probably beg you to come back when we get a little bit better idea, post combine, maybe post with some more intel. Maybe we'll get into some position group stuff. And I don't want to overwork you, but I always appreciate you coming on. The door is always open to return to the podcast. In the meantime, you mentioned it before. Your Patreon, plug all the things that you were doing because people should be checking it out because I am a patron of yours and people should be.
It's right there, Brian J NBA on Patreon. I made it easier to find.
Check it out.
I'm literally probably going to start really filling out my capsule board next week once I know everyone who could be in it.
Yeah, don't get burned. Well, there is for everybody this, but like there is a declare deadline and then you have a while until they can pull out, and guys will. Yeah. Remove themselves along the way.
Yeah. Which is why I am being a little slower than I used to be with this because I don't want to Kyle Filipowski myself again, which is when 2 years ago he was
bad beat
projected to go like 15th or 16th, and he pulled out on the last day possible, which happened to be 3 days after I wrote like 800 words on him and spent 2 hours doing the whole breakdown for him, and I was just like, great.
And usually a guy that's like a consensus top 20 pick is not going to come out. That's the thing. Like, we all kind of know who like the guys who might pull out of the draft are. Usually if you're in the top like 16, 17, you're not pulling out of the draft. And he did, which is why it was so weird.
Thankfully things worked out for him so much better than next year. He definitely didn't go the same spot he would have gone anyway.
Well, I think he went later than he would have gone, honestly. Anyway, that's...
he had a good rookie year, so it might work out for him. He earned my ire for about 12 hours there. I was like, that really just wasted day.
And he got thrown into the fire because, listen, to bring things full circle, John Collins was too good for Utah this year, and they just couldn't keep playing him. So they had to shut him down for the season, and they had to play Kyle Filipowski instead. I'm not even kidding about that. Collins was actually good this year. Nice to see that from
whose his contract is up, isn't it?
Collins? Player option, maybe? I think it's a player option left.
Okay, well, I'll probably take that. But
they'll probably opt in too.
He'd be got to bring back for $15 million. Like
100%. If he was a free agent this year, I would be banging the table to bring.
He's going to be in his Tobias Harris mode soon, where like his overpay will be done, and then he'll be severely underpaid.
Yeah, that'll be like just a good player that no one, contracts are fickle, man. It's an interesting thing to talk about. Okay, Brian. Well, thanks for being here as always, my friend. People should be following Brian on Patreon, Twitter, Blue Sky. Are you posting on Blue Sky? I can't remember.
I'm on there. I actually, I think my password got messed up or something. I have to figure it out. I think
occasionally on Blue Sky, maybe.
Yeah, I have to figure it out. I may have to make a new one because my problem was I misspelled my email when I made my account, so I don't know if I can recover it.
That's a bad beat. Well, anyway, you might find Brian on Blue Sky. He's on Twitter. He's on Patreon. Follow him there. As for this podcast, I don't know what day this is posting, but it'll be there. Subscribe. We'll have more coming up later on this week. And we'll see everybody next time.